we are delighted to present Martin Bruncko from Steam Capital.
Hi. Hello, really pleasure to be here. Let me start by telling you about a few very cool deep tech companies from Central and Eastern Europe. And when I say deep tech, I mean companies that are really based on science and engineering technologies. So about 8 years ago, a bunch of young guys come into my office in Bratislava, and they're telling me about this super exciting company they're working on. So when I ask them, what is it? They say, well, if you could drill down to 10 kilometers at reasonable costs, you could basically build a geothermal power plant anywhere in the world and pretty much have access to free energy, because geothermal power plant is nothing but 2 holes in the ground. They just need to be deep enough that at the bottom you hit hot rock, say 300 degrees Celsius, and then you just basically put cold water down, and at the bottom it gets superheated, up it goes the steam, and you run a steam engine on top of it. You basically have geothermal power plant. Now, the problem is that basically nobody can drill down to 10 kilometers at reasonable cost, right? So you basically below 5 kilometers, your costs start growing exponentially. And these guys are telling me, well, you know what, and we have a technology that we think can drill down to 10 kilometers at reasonable costs. So we will have this access to free, pretty much geothermal energy anywhere, hence the GA, geothermal anywhere. Now I asked them, so how far are you along with the technology? You have the prototype? It's like, no, actually, we have a PowerPoint presentation. So normally what you do with people like that, you kick them out of your office because they can't be serious, right? I mean, nobody, if for 100 years we couldn't drill down to 10 kilometers, of course, these guys, they're a bunch of IT guys, by the way, but because, you know, they already exited from a company before, they had a good recommendation. So I actually took them seriously. We kind of looked at the company or at the team for a while. And then we decided to sort of invest and move it forward. Now, I was hoping to show you this video, but I don't think it's, I'm not really sure how to make the video work. Anyway, the video was going to show you basically, so what the guys have developed, it's a plasma-based technology where you can drill down to 10 kilometers literally at linearly increasing cost. The other one was also a video kind of showing the classical drilling as opposed to plasma-based drilling. Now, never mind. Point is, the company is about 2-3 years from full deployment. This is going to be $1 billion company just behind the corner in Slovakia. Let's move to a different one. This is out of Slovenia, Rimac. How many of you have heard of this company? Well, a few of you have. It's actually, you know, people who are really deep into automotive will tell you this is the best electric car company in the world. In fact, a good friend of mine who was the CEO of McLaren Automotive, so he built McLaren as a commercial brand. He says that when he came to see these guys about 4 years ago, he said, well, first of all, it looks just like McLaren inside. I mean, it's just as amazing. And the technology, forget Tesla, forget all these electric cars, like this is beyond belief. And then probably some of you have seen this one as well. Well, this is not just a supercar, it's a flying supercar. Again, around the corner in Slovakia. Actually, what you see here, this is already a full demonstration vehicle. Well, not just demonstration, it's the full car as it's now started to be pre-sold. So we will be delivering them in about 2.5 years. Again, built around the corner. So if you can build this type of amazing companies in places like Slovakia and Slovenia, I'm sure, you know, there's plenty more stuff that can be and will be done all around Central and Eastern Europe. Now, so why don't we see more of it, and what are the main challenges that we need to overcome to get there? So I think there are really three, from my experience, three big challenges which kind of distinguish deep tech companies from a typical digital company. So your first challenge is that you need a lot more deep domain expertise. I mean, basically what it means is, you know, if you're building a pizza delivery app, you kind of need to be sort of, you know, have a business savviness, sort of understand business, but it doesn't really require anything specific. If you're trying to build a kind of an ultra deep drilling technology or a flying car, you better know something really serious about how to build cars, how to build airplanes. So that's the first issue. The second issue is regulation. Usually with these type of companies, you're touching into regulated markets. So if you want to build a car, or even actually like a drilling technologies for, let's say, offshore drilling, it needs to be certified. You run into regulations. And then the last one is funding. Now, until recently, funding was a massive problem. It was difficult 5 years ago to raise money in this part of the world, even for a digital startup. For a deep tech startup, it was basically impossible. So I hope I have sufficiently excited you about the possibilities of deep tech in this part of the world, and I want to continue with maybe 3 pieces of advice in case you actually are building a deep tech company yourself. So the first one is go for the top industry people as soon as possible. Basically, as I said, you really need deep domain expertise, and you're going to save a lot of time if you can surround yourself with people who have done something before. So, if you're trying to build a new energy company, then try to get somebody who was one of the top people in BP, in Shell, in one of these companies. You're trying to do a flying car, so we brought in the people like the former CEO of McLaren, people who were very senior in Rolls-Royce, in Airbus, etc. And I've learned on the example of GA drilling that we could have saved about 3 years of time of development if we had brought this type of people early on. So it's really going to save you a lot of time and money, and ultimately it will also enable you to raise money much easier. The second thing is regulation. So there's a general tendency, particularly in Silicon Valley, to look at the regulators and the government as your enemy, because we're the cool innovators and the government is sort of sticking, throwing sand in our engine and slowing us down. Not always true, particularly, let's say mobility. If you're trying to develop a new kind of mobility device, there are literally lives at stake. If something goes wrong, people will die. Doesn't really happen to a pizza delivery app. If your pizza delivery app fails, you just don't get a pizza. But really, with a failed autonomous car, people will die. So this is why you shouldn't be looking at the regulation if it's kind of well-conceived regulation as your enemy. But on the contrary, you should really see it as something that if you fulfill, if you go along, it will make your product safer, and it's also easier to market to them because people know, your customers know that this is something that somebody has already looked at and that it's safe to use. And second thing is also with regulators, don't see them as your enemies and try to build a constructive relationship with the regulators early on. That's what we have done, for example, with Aeromobile, where we really reached out proactively to the European Air Safety Agency. We started working very proactively with car certification agencies just to really make sure that they actually are brought on board and that it's also in their interest to help us deliver the product as opposed to trying to block us. And the last bet is funding, right? So, I'm a venture capitalist, but I nevertheless have to start by telling you that best money is usually non-dilutive money, which means not venture money. So be creative, particularly if you're trying to build a deep tech startup. It's going to take you tens of millions of euros to build a product. And there, if you can come up with funding that doesn't dilute you, it really, really helps early on, because you don't want to end up as an entrepreneur at the end of the day with 5% of your company. So this is where government R&D grants come in. Basically, most of the companies I showed you at the beginning, a lot of the early development was done thanks to government R&D grants. So really look for government R&D grants coming back to the government as well. Don't make them your enemy, make them your friend. Try to really make sure that you use the funding that's available. And then the second one is industry partnerships. Industry partnerships are important. For example, with GA Drilling, we have eventually brought on board companies like Statoil, like BP, like Shell, and they were actually paying us money, basically quote unquote for free, just to develop our technology faster, because the technology also has a couple of other applications where it's really saving a lot of money for these big energy giants, and so they really want the technology to have available as soon as possible. And then finally, you really want to go after smart venture money, because if you have smart private money, it will help you. Now, I think there is really kind of a pecking order of money. At the top of it is smart money. So smart money is somebody who will bring you the right connections, the right introduction, additional money. At the very least, if you really know what you're doing, if you can't get smart money, then dumb money is okay, but really make sure that you don't get what I call pain in the ass money, because there are some investors who can, not only they don't help you, but they can be very destructive to what you're doing. So I think the really key one here is try to find the smart money investors, but make sure you avoid the pain in the neck investors. So just to kind of conclude, basically, I hope that with the first 3 companies I've showed you, I've convinced you that kind of no matter how crazy you think your idea is, if you can build a flying car out of Slovakia, or this kind of an energy company, or like the best electric supercar out of Slovenia, I'm sure you can build basically whatever you want out of pretty much anywhere else in the world. Certainly in CEE, where we have some outstanding engineers. And maybe just the last one, and if you're really working on something very, very cool in deep tech, if you think this is really transformational, if you think it's something that's really going to change the world and it's going to be worth billions, please come to talk to me. We are trying to be the smart money. We have some pretty amazing people on board as advisors, and we'll be really helpful to guide you and help you on your way. Thank you.